Imagine a scene so morbid, it blurs the line between a horror film and reality. In a blood-stained West Hollywood apartment, a grisly discovery unveils a tale of torture ripped right out of a graphic novel. The victim, a young mother. The accused, her graphic novelist partner. Stay with us as we explore the gruesome events, the intense investigation, as well as the psychological factors that trigger this tragedy. Born on May 8, 1981, Blake Leibel was the son of a Canadian real estate mogul. His life in Toronto was marked by luxury, yet seemingly devoid of direction. Blake's journey was not one of self-made triumphs, rather it was cushioned by the substantial wealth of his family. The sudden death of his mother and the inheritance he received thereafter seemed to fuel a pursuit of creative career in Hollywood. His creative endeavors, notably in graphic novels, were overshadowed by a personal life that was tumultuous at best. A marriage to Amanda Brown, a relationship that blessed him with children, eventually crumbled, paving the way for his fateful encounter with Iana Kasian. Iana Kasian's story is one of stark contrast to Blake's. Born in Ukraine in 1986, her journey to the United States was fueled by ambition and a desire for a better life. A former prosecutor in her home country, Iana transitioned into modeling after moving to the US. Her encounter with Blake Leibel seemed like a new chapter in a life that was steadily ascending. However, this relationship would soon spiral into a narrative marked by control, fear, and ultimately, tragedy. The relationship began as many romances do, with the promise of love and companionship. Kasian, emerging from her life in Ukraine into the Hollywood landscape, found in Leibel a partner who was seemingly enchanted by her. Their relationship progressed rapidly, a whirlwind of emotions and promises. However, Leibel's past was a specter that haunted their union. His divorce from Amanda Brown, with whom he had children, was not yet finalized when he began his relationship with Kasian. This overlap of relationships was the first sign of a life that was spiraling out of control. As their relationship deepened, Kasian became pregnant, a development that should have marked a joyous occasion. Yet, the impending arrival of their child seemed to exacerbate the underlying issues in Leibel's psyche. His behavior reportedly became increasingly erratic and controlling. Iana, meanwhile, seemed to become more isolated. The joy and ambition that had marked her arrival in the US began to be overshadowed by the increasingly possessive nature of a relationship with Leibel. The birth of their child, rather than being a moment of unification, became the catalyst for a tragic unraveling. May 23, 2016. Iana, while shopping with her mother, received a series of texts from Leibel. The content of these messages, while unknown, visibly altered Iana's demeanor. She abruptly left, uttering to her mother that she needed to see Leibel. This was the last moment Olga Kasian would see her daughter alive. May 24th, Olga, unable to reach her daughter despite numerous calls, seeks help. The police, initially involved, find their efforts to check on Iana frustrated by her lack of response at the couple's apartment. May 26th, law enforcement, after several attempts and a growing sense of dread, enter the West Hollywood apartment. The scene they encounter is one of unspeakable horror. Iana Kasian's lifeless body is found in the master bedroom, lying in a state that bore the hallmarks of a prolonged and brutal attack. She had been mutilated and drained of her blood, her injuries speaking silently of the torture she endured. Blake Leibel, found at the scene, is arrested and charged with first-degree murder, mayhem, and torture. Disclaimer: the following points are only speculations and do not reflect a professional psychological analysis. While these psychological factors provide some context, they do not excuse or justify criminal behavior. Leibel's background includes a tumultuous family life and significant changes in his personal relationships. His mother's death and the subsequent inheritance, as well as a strained relationship with his father, could have contributed to psychological stress or instability. Leibel's complicated romantic life, including leaving his pregnant wife for Kasian and reportedly dating another woman while with Kasian, suggests potential emotional turmoil and conflict. Leibel expressed fears about Russian mobsters due to his brother's gambling debts, which may have contributed to a state of paranoia or heightened stress. The disturbing parallels between the crime and Leibel's graphic novel, Syndrome, suggest a possible blurring of fiction and reality in his mind. The novel's themes of violence and control might have been a psychological outlet that manifested in real life. The nature of the crime and the circumstances suggest a desire for control and power. Prosecutors noted that the murder stemmed from Leibel's jealousy and anger and a need for power and control over Kasian. Blake Leibel's presence at the crime scene and the overwhelming physical evidence quickly made him the prime suspect. Forensic analysis painted a gruesome picture of the crime, revealing the extent of Iana's injuries and the brutal nature of her death. Meanwhile, Blake Leibel's demeanor and actions during the investigation were under scrutiny. His lack of cooperation and the inconsistencies in his statements added to the mounting evidence against him. As the trial commenced, prosecution laid out a narrative that was both horrifying and deeply disturbing. The details of the murder, mirroring aspects of Leibel's graphic novel Syndrome, suggested a premeditated act influenced perhaps by his own creative works. The prosecution argued that the crime was not only brutal, but bore the marks of a man who had lost touch with reality, enacting a scenario that seemed to leap from the pages of his own dark fantasies. Throughout the trial, evidence and testimonies painted a portrait of a relationship steeped in control and jealousy. Prosecutors highlighted Leibel's increasing possessiveness and paranoia in the weeks leading up to the murder, framing these as key motives behind his actions. The defense faced the daunting task of humanizing a man accused of an inhuman crime. They delved into Leibel's background, hinting at possible psychological issues and the pressures of his life that might have contributed to a break from reality. However, the overwhelming physical evidence made it an impossible task. On June 20th, 2018, the jury delivered their verdict. Leibel was found guilty of first-degree murder, torture, and aggravated mayhem. On June 26, 2018, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For Iana Kasian's family, the loss was immeasurable. Her mother, Olga, faced the unimaginable grief of losing her daughter in such a horrific manner, and the responsibility of caring for Iana's infant daughter, who was left motherless. In the pursuit of justice beyond the criminal trial, Iana's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Leibel. In 2019, a court ruled in their favor, ordering Leibel to pay $41.6 million to Kasian estate. The case also sparked broader conversations about domestic violence, mental health, and the sometimes blurred lines between artistic expression and real-life violence. What do you make of this case? Can you even comprehend how a human being can turn into something that evil to the point of ruthlessly taking another life away? Thank you for joining us today on Casual Evil. Remember, you always pay for your crimes, one way or the other.